What is the weight of a secret? Not a little white lie, but a true, dark, rotting secret? The kind you bury so deep you almost convince yourself it never happened. We were 5 friends who learned the answer. It's not measured in guilt or shame. It's measured in decay. My name is Jason, and for 10 years, I carried the weight of what we did at the old Lakewood cabin. We thought we'd gotten away with it. We were wrong. The secret wasn't gone. It was just festering, and something was feeding on it. This is the legend of the Lament of Rotten Souls, and the terrible truth that a secret buried is not a secret dead. It was the summer after high school graduation. Me, my brother Leo, our friends Chloe, Mark, and Sarah. We were invincible, celebrating our freedom at my family's remote cabin. The night it happened is a blur of cheap beer, bad decisions, and an argument with a drifter we invited to our bonfire out of a misplaced sense of pity. He got aggressive with Sarah. Leo intervened. A shove. A crack of skull on the stone hearth. Sudden, shocking silence. He was dead. Panic is a cold fire. We weren't thinking. We were animals cornered by our own terror. We couldn't go to the police. It would ruin our lives before they even started. So we made a pact. We wrapped the body in a tarp. In the dead of night, under a moonless sky, we carried him into the deep woods behind the cabin. We dug a shallow grave in the soft, wet earth near a stagnant creek. We buried him, along with our innocence, and we swore a blood oath to never, ever speak of it again. We sealed the pact not with a handshake, but by each placing a hand on the freshly turned soil, swearing into the silence. For a decade, we held the line. We went to college, started careers, built lives. We never spoke, but the secret was a ghost at every reunion, a cold spot in every conversation. We were bound together not by friendship, but by a shared corruption. Then this summer, we decided to reunite at the cabin for the first time since that night. A way to face our demons, we told ourselves. A stupid, arrogant idea. The moment I crossed the threshold, I felt it. A wrongness. The air was thick and heavy, smelling of wet earth and something else. Something sweetly putrid, like rotten meat and spoiled fruit. The first sign was the food. The milk we'd brought curdled within an hour. The bread grew a thick, green fur overnight. We thought it was a broken fridge, bad luck. The second sign was the decay. The wooden banister on the stairs, once solid, crumbled under Leo's hand like wet cardboard. A section of the living room floor simply gave way, the floorboards beneath soft and pulpy, riddled with wormholes. The rot wasn't random. It was concentrated. It started at the back of the cabin, the side that faced the woods, and it was spreading. The third sign was the sound. A low, guttural, wet moaning that seemed to come from the very walls. It was the sound of the earth itself in pain. The lament, that's when we saw them. Patches of black, slimy mold began to spread across the walls, not in random splotches, but in a distinct, horrifying pattern. The outline of a human form. That first night, the temperature plummeted. The moaning grew louder, coalescing into a voice, a chorus of voices, muddied and waterlogged. You put us in the cold, dark ground. It gurgled from the sink drain. We are so heavy with your silence. We huddled in the living room, flashlights our only defense against the encroaching dark. And then, the wall near the back door. It bulged, the wallpaper split, and a figure oozed out. It was the Lament of Rotten Souls. It was an amalgamation of everything we'd buried. It had the general shape of a man, but its body was a shifting, writhing mass of black soil, rotting leaves, glistening fungus, and the pale, wriggling forms of grubs and earthworms. Where a face should be was a hollowed-out space filled with a stagnant, dark water, from which the guttural lament never ceased. It didn't have eyes, but we could feel it seeing us, recognizing us. It moved not by walking, but by dissolving and reforming, like a slug made of the forest floor itself. It left a trail of black slime and rapid decay in its wake. It was the physical manifestation of our festering secret, and it had come to unbury itself. It went for Mark first. He was always the most paranoid, the one who jumped at every sound. The creature simply flowed over him. It didn't attack him. It assimilated him. He screamed as the rot spread up his legs, his flesh turning gray and spongy, his clothes dissolving into mulch. Within seconds, he was pulled into the creature's core, his terrified face appearing for a moment in the murky water of its face, before dissolving into the mass. He was now part of the secret, part of the lament. Chloe tried to run out the front door, but the wooden door had rotted shut, fused to the frame. The creature oozed from the fireplace, surrounding her. It didn't consume her like it did Mark. It wrapped around her, and we watched in horror as her body petrified, not into stone, but into a twisted, blackened tree root, her mouth frozen in a silent scream, forever rooted to the spot where she fell. Leo, driven mad with guilt and fear, grabbed a fire poker and charged the thing. It was me. I pushed him. He screamed. The creature seemed to welcome his confession. It engulfed him, and Leo's body didn't rot or petrify. It composted. He dissolved into a heap of rich, black soil and bone fragments, the nutrients of his guilt feeding the very earth he'd defiled. It was just me and Sarah now. The creature turned its stagnant gaze upon us. I could feel it probing the secret, tasting our specific roles. I was the one who suggested burying the body. Sarah was the one who provided the tarp. We were complicit. But as it flowed towards Sarah, something in me broke, not with fear, but with a desperate, final clarity. I didn't try to fight it. I didn't beg. I did the one thing we had sworn never to do. I spoke the secret, aloud, to the creature. His name was Thomas. I screamed, the name we'd never known suddenly ripped from a hidden corner of my memory. We buried him by the creek. We were scared. We were wrong. I'm sorry. The creature stopped. The lamentation ceased. The only sound was the dripping of its foul water onto the floor. It tilted its head-like form. The murky water in its face swirled, and for a second, I saw a face Thomas's face, not angry, but sad. Then it looked at Sarah. It was waiting. Tears streaming down her face, Sarah whispered, "I'm sorry too." The creature let out a long, slow, watery sigh. It began to recede, not in attack, but in retreat. It flowed back into the wall, the rot on the wood receding with it, leaving behind only damp, clean-smelling wood. The oppressive weight lifted. The morning sun broke through the windows. Sarah and I were the only ones left. The police found us in a state of shock. They found the decay, but wrote it off as severe dry rot. They found the disturbed earth by the creek, and Thomas's body was finally given a proper burial. Our story is that we were attacked by an animal. They don't believe us, but they have no other explanation. The lament of rotten souls is not a ghost. It is the ecological consequence of a moral crime. It is the land itself, sickened by the poison of a buried truth, rising to confront the source of the infection. It doesn't want vengeance. It wants acknowledgement. It wants the secret unearthed so the land can heal. So I post this as my final confession, not just to the authorities, but to the world. If you are carrying a heavy secret, one that eats at you from the inside out, find a way to let it out. Confess to a priest, a therapist, a trusted friend. Do not bury it, because the ground has a memory. And when the weight of your silence becomes too much for the earth to bear, it will give that secret back to you in a form you cannot ignore. The lament is always listening, and it is always, always hungry. Share this. Let our tragedy be a warning. The truth will always find a way to the surface, one way or another.